Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about my life and fulfilling our purpose here. So, we left off when I was in grade school and the little experiences I had reading the Bible with the sisters. And this morning, we're going to move up into the classes a little bit and just want to give you a little feel for what it was like walking to school every day in the early 1960s. During the fall, when school started, I can remember the smells very distinctly. I love the fall smells. And the start of school always meant clean, new clothes, and the smell of the new clothes, and then the smell of the trees and the crispness in the air. The sky was a deep blue, and the leaves were starting to turn. And as they would fall off the trees, they were just these beautiful colors surrounding me. I can remember just standing next to the trees, these beautiful maple trees, all the way to school. There was a whole line of them, just yellows and reds and just gorgeous, gorgeous trees. And I would take my time and play with the tree bark and play with the leaves and walk through the mud puddles. But back then, we used to wear these little yellow raincoats with rubbers on our feet to keep us dry and warm. And then the smell of the school, you'd walk into the school, and it was a small Catholic school, and it had wood floors, and the wood floors would creak as you'd go in, but you could smell the new varnish. And then you open up your new pencil boxes and smell the lead and the pencils, and everything was exciting. You got to be back with your friends, and it took a while for us to all settle down. So I was a bit of a tomboy back then. As I was growing older, I loved to play sports. I played every sport there was. I had 6 brothers, as you might remember, and the neighborhood was filled with boys. So we had enough between our family and the boys in my little neighborhood. We had the biggest front yard in the neighborhood, so we played baseball and we played football and basketball and had a lot of fun together. Around the age of 13 is when I started noticing that I was not making, but kind of seeing into the future a little bit. And when I was 13, my mom and dad had bought a camper and wanted to go to Florida. They had hoped to move to Florida at some point. And I remember getting into the car and stopping and looking at my mom and saying, I really don't want to go. I had had this feeling for several days that we were going to have a car accident. And I said, we're going to have a car accident, Mom. I don't want to go. And of course, back then, Mom was like, just shut up and get in the car. So, okay, off we went. We hit the New Jersey Turnpike and we had a car accident. No one was hurt, but the trailer flipped over on the New Jersey Turnpike on its side, and luckily, the car did not flip over. It just twisted the metal. We didn't have a thing called a sway bar on the car holding the camper steady, and as big trucks would go past us, the trailer was whipping around, and this one time it just whipped around enough where it just fell over. What I remember most, I wasn't super scared. I kind of thought it was funny, looking at the trailer on its side. Nobody appreciated that. But I think that when I was young and I was nervous, I would laugh. And like sitting in a funeral home, we were always pulled into all these funerals for all these old aunts and great aunts that I really didn't know. And we were supposed to sit there quiet in the funeral homes. I used to have experiences in funeral homes that were incredible, but I could not talk about it with anyone because the light in the funeral homes was so bright, especially around the deceased person. And it was very, very beautiful. But there were times where I would sit and giggle because I was just nervous, and I would always get in trouble for laughing at the wrong times. Didn't know that it was a nervous habit. But the clairvoyance started when I was about 13 and started seeing things before they happened. So sometimes I'd have a dream, sometimes the thought would just come into my head, and sure enough, within the next day or two, that little item or that little thing would happen. I noticed it, but I really didn't think about it too much. I just thought it was something that everybody had and everybody could do and everyone could see yours. It was just part of my life. It was also around that time that I began really meditating. I didn't know what it was called, didn't know what I was doing, but I would sit for hours on end just staring at like a lake. I'd be at the edge of a lake or on the rock out in the lake and just watch the beautiful sun shining off the water or the wind blowing in the trees and the auras of the trees. So I would sit for long, long periods of time and just kind of sit quietly and meditate and just enjoy my surroundings. Other times I would sit and daydream. And yes, that's what we called it back then, daydreaming. But I think that was my first introduction to walking on the timeline, because I would go back in time and re-experience things. I could smell, I could see, and I could feel everything that I was experiencing in that time. And in more recent years, I've learned about walking the timeline and healing your past self, your young self, going back in time and working on yourself, working on family members who are ill, and now working with clients, walking their timeline, removing all old stuff that we just hang on to in our aura. That's another story. But all this wraps into learning and being and having experiences in order to fulfill our purpose. And we all have experiences. We all have a purpose here in life. And discovering what that purpose is one of the deepest blessings that we can have, knowing what it is we're here for. And it doesn't matter what it is. Right now, whatever it is you're doing is what you're here to do in this moment. That can change, but anything that you are doing in this moment is what you're supposed to be doing, and what all of your experiences, whether you've gone to college or just had a lot of great experiences and great jobs that brought you to this point in your life, wherever you are, this is where you're supposed to be. So at 13, and again in this Catholic school, we'd go into the library and we were supposed to pick out a book. And I really didn't read much back then, but I saw a book that I wondered about. It was called Spirit World, Spirit Life. And to find this type of book in a Catholic library, I don't know why it was there or who allowed it to be there. It was just crazy. But it was all about the afterlife and about spirits. And so I was getting answers to my questions about the beings that I was seeing coming up the stairs, the lights that I saw, the auras of the deceased person or the auras of people. So I started to understand a little bit about the spirit world and what it was like. So that book I read and enjoyed, but never had enough curiosity to go looking for more. I couldn't have probably have found any more in that library anyway. But I didn't know anybody to talk to about this. So again, I kept it to myself. I did get a Ouija board. I don't know how I ended up with it or if it was a neighbor's Ouija board, but we used to play with it as kids, play with the Ouija boards and talk to spirits and ask the Ouija board questions. But back then the questions were, who's going to be my boyfriend? I was a young teenager, so my curiosity didn't go out too far. I also used to play with memory placeholders. I don't know what to call them. Maybe somebody out there knows what that is, but I would take a snapshot in my mind of a little video, really. So I know one time I was in my bathroom. I love that little bathroom in our house. But on the floor was this little tiny black bug crawling across the floor. It's just an itty bitty thing. And I just sat and watched it. And I said, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. And I kind of created this little video in my head. And every once in a while, I'd go back to that little video and play it. And I still remember it. I remember a lot of the little videos that I did as a child and as a grown-up. So I don't know what the purpose of that was. Again, it may have something to do with walking the timeline and having these experiences. When I was 16, my parents decided that they wanted to move to California. The trip to Florida, to go back to that 13-year-old self, we went to Florida. We went actually by way of Indiana. We went to Gary, Indiana to have the trailer fixed. I forgot about that part of the story. But I spent many, many hours cleaning relish out of the screen because everything came out of the refrigerator and the cupboards. There was flour, mayonnaise, relish, all this stuff was broken and splattered all throughout the camper. So we spent a lot of time cleaning it up. And then we pulled the camper out to Gary, Indiana, where we got the correct setup we needed and the camper was fixed, and then we went on to Florida. Needless to say, the Florida trip didn't pan out. My dad did not get a job, and we came back home and we all went back to school in the fall. I think it was really more of an exploratory trip, and it was a lot of fun. It was good family time. Except for the accident, I'm sure that was a bit traumatic, especially for my parents. For me, it was just another adventure, and I was really glad that no one was hurt. So at 16, my parents decided they were going to take the family and go to California. Well, at 16, I was going into the 10th grade in high school, and they were going to take the kids out of school for several months before just to travel across the country. They left probably in July or August, and started traveling. And I knew that I was going to miss school, and I was a high schooler, and I just said to my mother and dad, I said, I really don't want to go. If I can stay here and continue with school, I would like to do that. So they worked out a way. My sister, also my older sister, didn't want to travel at that time. So she had a job and was out of school. So she found an apartment, and I lived in the apartment with my sister and my another brother. So we split the rent. I went to work after school every day. I worked in a jewelry factory. The town I was in had a lot of jewelry factories. So I went to work after school and then came home and did homework and settled into life as an adult at 16. I thought I was a pretty hot shot because I had my own apartment, is what I tell kids at school, and no longer lived with my parents. But my sister looked after me. She looked after me very well. And my older brother still checked in on me as well. So I thought I was pretty well grown up, and it didn't faze me at all. I just accepted the responsibility. I cooked a lot of meals. I loved cooking. I took a lot of cooking classes all through school. I wanted to go to a cooking school after I graduated. That didn't happen. So high school was a lot of fun for me. I left the Catholic school out of 8th grade, went into junior high, and then high school. And I was, how can I say it? I was more educated, and I was well educated in the Catholic school. So when I got to the public school system, I was ahead. I was more advanced than the other children my age. So I found school very easy until I hit high school, and back then we had to choose between college classes and regular business classes. And so I chose college classes because I was very smart. But I didn't really apply myself, so they ended up taking me out of the college classes. I never read anything I was supposed to read. I did a little bit of homework. I still found it easy, and I was bored, and I didn't like the books that they wanted us to read. I mean, good Lord, Lord of the Flies. I mean, what an awful book. I started reading it, put it down, wrote a little book report, got a C, and was happy with that. I got C's and B's, even though I didn't do a whole lot of homework and a whole lot of studying. I had this ability to read, like I liked history, so I'd read a chapter or two and take that little video or a little photograph of each page. So when I was taking a test, I could see the pages, and I could turn the pages and kind of read through the pages in my mind and get the answers. But I thought that was cheating for some reason, but I did it anyway. But it was in my mind, so we were supposed to memorize everything, and I didn't like memorizing things. It was tedious. So that brings us up through partway through my high school years, and I'm going to stop there as far as my life stories go. Um, all the little things that I talked about, the clairvoyance, the clairsentience, and the photographic memory, these are things I had no clue what they were. Walking the timeline, the experiences of going through the car accident, the fears, the loves that teenagers have come and go in their lives, learning to cook, all these things really played a big part in my future. So, again, all of our experiences that we have, the positive experiences, the negative experiences, they all happen so that we can fulfill our purpose here in life. We can use our experiences to help other people. So let's just do a little breath work. I will stop my story here. We'll talk more about learning how to fulfill your purpose in this life. Just know that you are doing what you're meant to be doing in this moment. Accept where you are. So take a deep breath and release it. Bring in that beautiful life energy, that pranic energy into your body. Bring it in through the top of your head and into your heart center. Feel the energy of that life energy, that beautiful healing energy. See it going out into your body, healing and balancing every cell in your body, lighting up every cell, bringing that luminosity in between your cells, in between the molecules, in all that space. See it lighting up like this beautiful fire. I hope you've enjoyed this little fire. See your heart flame. You see the brilliant white and gold in the fire. Bring that into your body. Use this beautiful energy to calm your mind, to bring healing and peace to every cell, to fill the space within your body with this luminosity. This is truly who we are. We are luminous, multidimensional beings. We can tap into this luminosity and live our lives from this luminous aspect of ourselves, which is more peaceful, which is more centered. It's a healing space, a quiet space, a space you can come into at any time during the day. Just take this breath. I urge you, take this breath. Breathe it in. This is who you are. Be still. Know who you are and work from that space. Your purpose comes from this space. No matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter. No matter how old you are watching this, young parents, middle-aged people working hard, earning a living, raising your family, older people whose children have moved out of the house like me, where I have this quiet space to meditate. and to be still. And I am still fulfilling my purpose. At every age, our purpose is where we are and what we are doing. But if we can bring this luminosity into our purpose, it sure makes the going a lot easier, because it helps to alleviate some of the emotions. It just lessens them. It puts you in a place where you can think, where you can deal with life. You can use this luminosity to burn off karmic energy, negativity, lack, and disease. I kind of think of it like a fire within me. I can open up this fireplace, put a piece of paper in, and watch it burn in the smoke and see it go up into the air. You can use this fire within your heart to burn up the negativity, your stress, your disease, your worries, your karma. It burns it right up, and it sends it up the chimney. Goes back out into the universe. The universe can deal with it. It's a big universe out there. I've come to realize with my little stories that the Hathors who are speaking with me now have been with me my entire life and have been helping me through my life, just whispering in my ear the truth that we are not born with sin, the truth that we are multidimensional, beautiful, perfect beings. When the Hathors look at us, they see billions of galaxies swirling within our bodies. They see the luminosity. They see us for what we are. They acknowledge who we are. And they're here to help us through this ascension. They are ascended masters. I leave you with these thoughts. I leave you with this breath, with this beautiful fire, this light and luminosity, and this peace. Blessings to everyone. I love you all.